Chicagoans first saw the architecture of the Keck brothers at the Century of Progress World's Fair on the Chicago lakefront in the early 1930s. One of the Chicagoans who saw that was a 7-year-old boy who was impressed by the houses. Nearly 50 years later, he bought this one in Flossmoor, attracted by all of those characteristic Keck elements. The popped-up ceilings that bring in a lot of light, the expanses of glass, the overhanging eaves, these wonderful louvers that were used to bring in seasonal breezes. Open them when you want natural airflow, close them when you want to block it out. So he buys this house in the late 80s with his wife, and they expand the house dramatically, putting on a much larger family room than the intimate spaces the original house would have had. They're very careful to keep the materials consistent. Again, they use all the glass. They even have the louvers at the end of the room, and they maintain those overhanging eaves. When you get inside, you see the consistency of materials used throughout the home, especially the tongue and groove wood that covers the ceilings, the walls, there are beams. None of this has ever been painted except one small portion in the master bath, so that the house still feels as it did when complete in the early 50s. When it was initially complete, the house had 4 formal rooms in a row: kitchen, dining and living, and a study off beyond the fireplace surrounded by windows. In the addition, what they've done is open it up tremendously. Those rooms were relatively small, big for the time, relatively small for the 80s, so they add this very large addition, again, keeping all the materials, making it feel like an expanded version of what already was there. They add one more natural material, granite, on the countertops in the built-ins in the dining room, as well as in the kitchen and in the bathrooms. So they're keeping up that idea of consistent materials using the one throughout the house. In the addition, you again get all that glass, and one of the things that happens here is you're more surrounded by the natural setting of the lot. When the house was one long bar, they were sitting looking sideways at their yard. Now what happens with this addition that they made in the late 80s is that you're extended out into the landscape. The outdoors is in and the indoors is out. And then they've got the louvers at the end of the addition. Those, of course, serve a functional purpose, but they are also an homage to the original artistry of the house. There's a more contemporary artist then also included. The base of the table and cabinetry, some light fixtures outside, some door handles are all done by Richard Hunt, a very eminent sculptor. His hinges are also on this large fixed-in-place cabinet in the addition. What this cabinet does, aside from that, is it takes this very large volume, which is out of character with the rest of the house, and divides it down into smaller spaces. One more intimate television room, and then the family room. You have the opposite effect in what used to be 2 bedrooms of the house. There were 5 bedrooms. 2 of them were in sort of a side pavilion of their own, attached to the house, but feeling like a separate space. And they were very small. So in the renovation, the wall between them was removed, and that becomes a sitting room, whatever you want it to be. And then around the corner is the string of 3 main bedrooms along a bar of the house. They're lined up with the nice big windows that open directly out into the view. They've got the louvers so you can bring in the air, all that functions. They've got the tongue and groove ceilings and walls that we've talked about. And at the end of the bar is the master. There is the master bath, of course, and then all that great wood surrounding, but you've got this enormous expanse of glass that opens out to your yard, your garden. It's a very pleasant setting. You can see why what the Kecks did impressed that 7-year-old so long ago.